One Piece's power system is something that's been getting refined ever since the first chapter back in 1997, and it's easily one of the most interesting things about the series in my opinion. When you have a series like One Piece that's as long as it is, it would be a true shame if the power system wasn't fleshed out, but luckily that seems to be something that's been on Oda's mind since the very beginning. Whether it's devil fruits or haki, each aspect of the power system has something that I can make multiple videos worth of content on, example being the video that I've already made about awakened devil fruits, link in the description. I've also got plans on making a video about haki because the whole concept and system is really interesting to me, but there are a few things about devil fruits that I didn't really get to talk about in my last video about them, so I've been itching to make another one. The other video that I made is also currently doing really well, and I do want to grow this channel, so there's a little bit of an incentive there as well. You see, there have been so many devil fruit powers introduced in the story so far that not all of them can be the most powerful thing that you've ever seen. Some of them are really strange, and that's what we're here to talk about today as we talk about the strange devil fruits of the One Piece world. Now, what I think is strange might be different from what you think is strange, but there will probably be a time that I talk about every devil fruit user in One Piece, even the filler and movie ones, so definitely leave a comment down below if you think that I missed one. I also feel like most of the devil fruits that we talk about today are going to be paramecia because of how broad the effects of one can be, but I wouldn't be surprised if there were at least a few from the other two types. With that being said, I do think it's time for us to get started with the very first devil fruit that I want to talk about, Blackbeard's Yami Yami no Mi. Now, it might seem a little strange that I've chosen Blackbeard's fruit first, since it's only a fruit that allows him to control darkness, but I chose it because of the way that it acts differently from other Logia fruits. You see, this is because while it does give the user the unique ability to control darkness and its property of gravity, it doesn't allow the user to turn their body into an invulnerable state like every other Logia. Instead, due to the user's ability to control gravity, they actually attract those attacks and take even more damage from them than they normally would. This has been shown to us a ton of times based on the reactions that Blackbeard has had to certain attacks, especially when a pre-time skip Luffy punched him before he even knew how to use haki. It also kinda tells us that Blackbeard has some insane durability at the same time, however, because he gets back up to fight after taking those massive hits every time. Blackbeard's fruit also allows him to do something that no other fruit can do, and that's to nullify devil fruit powers without the use of haki. This has been shown to us many times, with the two most iconic when he did it to Ace during the post-Enies lobby arc, and to Luffy during the Impel Down arc. Blackbeard's fruit also seems to be even more effective than seawater when it comes to nullifying devil fruits as well, as he completely stopped Luffy's ability to stretch when he grabbed him, yet Luffy's neck was still able to stretch when he was thrown underwater during the Arlong Park arc. Blackbeard's Black Vortex attack is also extremely overpowered, as it allows him to absorb things into it, similar to a black hole. With that being said, it seems that it doesn't completely compress and annihilate the things that are sucked in like a black hole would, rather it creates some form of space where the things are stored. Now, that's not to say that the things he sucks up don't get damaged, because they do, and that goes for both objects and people. I legitimately believe that Blackbeard's devil fruit powers are some of the coolest in all of One Piece, and some of the most underrated feats in the entire story were during Marineford when he absorbed both Whitebeard and Sengoku's attacks. Those are some of the biggest powerhouses that we've seen in the story so far, and they were both made almost useless by Blackbeard's powers of darkness. I also believe that it was the Yami Yami no Mi's powers that allowed him to take Whitebeard's powers from his corpse, but only time will tell if that theory is actually correct. Blackbeard might get memed on for only winning his fights off screen and being a generally weird guy, but he's easily one of the biggest threats in the One Piece world, and I can't wait for the day that him and Luffy meet again. With that being said, I do think it's time for us to move on to the next devil fruit that I want to talk about, and it isn't going to be a single user like you might expect. You see, the reason that I'm not going to be talking about a single devil fruit user in this part of the video is because inanimate objects can somehow eat devil fruits in the One Piece story. Don't ask me how that's possible, because it seems like only Oda and Vegapunk know why they can do so at the current moment, but there are currently 5 inanimate objects that have eaten devil fruits in the canon, and they all have zoan type fruits. This adds a whole new element to a fight that they're present in, because their user can use them as a weapon, and then they can transform to become even more dynamic. The first example of this is Mr. Four's dog Lassu that ate the Inu Inu no Mi model dachshund. I'm not gonna lie, I thought that this was a dog that ate a gun fruit at first, but that isn't the case at all, as our boy Lassu is actually the first example of the inanimate object eating a devil fruit that we see in the entire story. Lassu is actually a shoulder shoulder mounted cannon that Mr. 4 uses, as we see in his fight against Chopper and Usopp, but once he transforms, he becomes a dangerous mobile mortar that changes the entire dynamic of entire battles. Our boy Lasso is also always sick for some reason with a runny nose, as he actually fires cannonballs whenever he sneezes. You could say that this is a side effect of him being a gun that ate a devil fruit, even though that hasn't been confirmed, but I'd be surprised if that isn't the case, especially because of the fact that a gun eating something is an affront to nature. He is just a gun that can turn into a dog, but he's also a really good boy, as he listened to every order that Mr. 4 gave him, even if that order ended up harming him in the end. Next up, we gotta go to my favorite arc, the Enies Lobby arc, for Spandam's sword Funkfried, who ate the Zozo no Mi. That's right, it's another sword that somehow ate a devil fruit, and this one gave Funkfried the ability to transform into an elephant. Funkfried is the only likable thing about Spandam's character, and Spandam is such a piece of shit that I truly believe that Funkfried would run away from him if he could. It was also Funkfried that showed us that Vegapunk knows how these inanimate objects eat devil fruits, as he's the reason that Funkfried even exists in the first place. Funkfried being an elephant gives it 2 extra abilities that a normal sword wouldn't have, those 2 abilities being the ability to stretch itself forward because of its trunk, and just straight up transform into an elephant. This really helps Spandam in doing things like subduing Robin, but it's still Spandam at the end of the day, and he'll always be an idiot no matter how powerful his sword is. Seeing a sword in a half elephant, half sword state is something that's really crazy to witness, and it's something that's only possible because of the wacky world of One Piece. Next up, we've got the most interesting of these inanimate objects to eat a devil fruit in my opinion, Caesar's pet Smiley and his Sara Sara no Mi model axolotl. That's right, this inanimate object ate a lizard devil fruit, but it isn't the animal that it turns into that makes it so interesting. The reason that Smiley is so interesting is because Caesar made him by collecting and compressing the poisonous H2S gas that had spread throughout Punk Hazard and then using Vegapunk's methods to feed it a devil fruit. This means that while it is technically Caesar's pet, it's also a biochemical weapon of mass destruction at the same time. Given the fact that Caesar is also a gas man, it also listens to his every command, but only if it doesn't get interested in something else first. Despite the fact that it is now technically a living creature, Smiley didn't seem to be aware of his own actions, as he just kept moving forward no matter how many people he killed in the process. With that being said, the gas was also given a survival instinct now that it's also part animal, so once it realized that it was weak to water, it figured out a way to avoid it. Smiley being a looming threat in the background made the Punk Hazard arc a lot more interesting, and that only makes sense since he was crafted by the madman Caesar himself. Despite being weak to water, Smiley is immune to extreme heat, but that doesn't mean that you can't get a reaction out of him by using fire. This is because if you set his body on fire directly, it causes violent explosions that Caesar can use to his advantage if Smiley is already attached to his opponent. Smiley is also really interesting because even though his axolotl body makes the gas look like a lizard, given the fact that it's made of gas, there's really no way that it could ever go out of its hybrid form into a full beast form. Smiley also emits some kind of smoke or vapor that poisons anybody that touches it or inhales it, and it's also very corrosive, so it hurts quite a bit if you touch it. Despite being super dangerous, Smiley can also be a cute little guy as well, as he actually likes candy, and him eating one laid out by Caesar is actually what caused his death. It was something in that candy, I don't remember what, that caused Smiley to dissolve and his death. We know that Smiley died here because a nearby apple actually transformed into his devil fruit, marking the first and I believe only time that we've ever seen that, and a clear indication of his death. With that being said, Smiley was still dangerous after his death because reverting to his old form just means that he's now a dangerous gas that can turn people into stone. Smiley isn't in the story for all that long, but he definitely makes the Punk Hazard arc more interesting, and him being an inanimate object that ate a devil fruit definitely plays a role in that. The next one that we have to talk about comes in the form of someone that truly became a fan favorite character in the more hardcore camps of the fandom during the Wano arc, that being Tama's teapot, Bunbuku. We later come to learn that he actually belongs to Oden's father, Sukiyaki, but our boy Bunbuku ate the Inu Inu no Mi model Tanuki. Given that this guy isn't connected to the world government, we don't know exactly how he was able to eat his devil fruit, but he was, and probably in a way similar to the method that Vegapunk discovered. discovered. Bunbuku appears so little in the story that its history section on the One Piece fandom is less than 10 sentences long, but man did it catch people's attention during its time in the story. He's just a cute little guy that wants to serve some tea, and he does his job admirably as he just sits in the background, despite being alive. Oda also confirmed that the little guy wasn't sitting on a little rug, rather his balls are so massive that he can use them as a little mat. Now while I do feel a little bad for revealing that information out of nowhere, if I have to live with it, so do you since you decided to click on this video. With that unfortunate bit of news off my shoulders, we only have one inanimate object left to talk about, and it's actually something that I talked about in my last video about devil fruits, Shamrock's sword, Cerberus. This is a sword that ate a mythical zoan that gave it the ability to transform into a Cerberus, and is the only inanimate object to have an awakened devil fruit that we've seen in the One Piece story so far. Something tells me that we'll see at least one more of these before the end of the story, but not much else has changed about the thing since the last time I talked about it. This is because we haven't seen it again since my last devil fruit video, but since this is a brand new video, I will talk about it a little bit here. Cerberus being a mythical zoan makes it a little bit more interesting than the other inanimate zoans that we've talked about so far, just because mythical zoans give their users some cool new powers alongside a cool transformation. In Cerberus's case, it allows the sword to grow 3 more blades out of its 3 heads, and then use those swords to attack at different times. This is an insanely cool ability on its own, but its power also can't be underestimated, as it was Cerberus that basically took Loki to his knees once Shamrock and Gunko decided to leave. Shamrock having a sword that can spawn 3 blades also makes me feel like him and Zoro might have a fight before the story ends, and that would be a banger, so I hope that that's the case. Now you might think that I'm done talking about zoans since paramecias are so strange, but there's one more type of zoan fruit that I have to mention before moving on to them. During the Punk Hazard arc, we learn about the world government's attempts to create devil fruits themselves through the pink recreation of Kaido's devil fruit that Momonosuke ate. This was of course created by Vegapunk because he makes every other scientist in One Piece look like an idiot, but he wasn't the only person to try to recreate the power-giving fruits. This is because Caesar tried to recreate them too, and we actually get to see quite a bit of them in the form of his smile fruits. Smiles are high-risk, artificial zoan fruits created through the use of SAD. SAD is a unique substance that allows for the creation of artificial zoan fruits through the practical application of something discovered by Vinsmoke Judge and Vegapunk, the universal genetic blueprint, the lineage factor. Lineage factor is essentially the DNA of the One Piece world, but it's of course a little bit different because eating a devil fruit can change a person's lineage factor. That only makes sense given the fact that eating a devil fruit changes somebody's abilities so drastically, and even allows them to transform in most cases. With that being said, even though Vegapunk's recreation of Kaido's fruit was perfect, other than the fact that the dragon is pink as opposed to blue, Caesar isn't as smart as Vegapunk, so he wasn't able to recreate devil fruits as well. This means that the smile fruits are incredibly hard to grow, and that only 10% of the fully grown smile fruits actually give the person that ate them powers. Now when I say that they're hard to grow, not even the Tontatas could grow them effectively, and the Tontatas are quite literally the best gardeners in the entire One Piece world. Only 10% of them being effective also led to some of the most emotional moments in the entire Wano arc, as Orochi was so cruel that he would allow his people to eat these fruits despite knowing the negative effects that they had. Those negative effects forced the person that ate the fruit to always show a smile on their face, no matter the emotion that they were actually feeling inside. The reveal of that fact after Yasui's death and Zoro's genuine anger after learning the truth makes that a hard-hitting moment no matter how many times you've seen it. Caesar is always an irredeemable piece of shit, no matter how much time he spends with the Straw Hats, and that's all because of the fact that he was willing to do things like this in the name of science and money. With that being said, even though eating a failed smile could be considered a fate worse than death, getting a smile that actually works isn't really the best case scenario either. Unlike normal zoans, which give their users all of the abilities of the animal that they're based on, successful smile fruits only give the user a certain part of that animal. This is shown to us many times, with a few examples being the fact that Batman only has the hearing of a bat, Alpaca Man can only spit his saliva at high speeds like an alpaca, and Gazelle Man can run fast like a gazelle, but he doesn't get the stamina of a gazelle. These fruits also have potential side effects that could give their users permanent physical disfigurement based on the animal powers that they got. lot. They also make some of their users look absolutely hilarious, and that's why I wanted to talk about some of them in this video. Smile fruits also give the possibility for two different people to have powers based on the same animal due to the fact that they only gave a certain part of that animal's abilities, and that leads to some pretty insane combinations. Somebody like Mouse Man, who ate a smile fruit that simply gives him the ears of a mouse. This legitimately gives him no advantage when it comes to his combat abilities, but the Smile users do get the basic strength upgrade that Zoans give their users, no matter how goofy they look. We've also got someone like Horseman, who quite literally got the mane and head of a horse, and nothing else. There are quite literally so many examples of this that I could use to describe these malformations, but the last one I want to highlight is this man Hamlet. I honestly feel like he's the poster child when it comes to goofy smile transformations, and that's because he has an entire giraffe's body growing out of his neck. He is a giraffe from the neck down, but where the giraffe's head should be is just a fully grown human man whose feet will never easily touch the ground again. He just dangles up there while the rest of his body is that of a giraffe, and the fact that he has the gall to try to use swords with the human part of his body is actually kinda commendable. I truly don't see a world where he could do anything with the swords that he wields, but maybe I just don't have the same vision that he has. Now, if the risks of smile fruits weren't bad enough already, they also have a weakness that a normal Zoan fruits just don't have. This weakness is only something that's present in Wano at the moment, but that's where these smile users were based, so maybe it's fate. This is because people that have successful smile fruits are actually vulnerable to Tama's devil fruit. If you don't remember what Tama's devil fruit is, she has the Kibi Kibi no Mi, which is a paramecia that gives her the ability to make any animal completely tame and subservient to her if they eat one of the dumplings that she can create by pinching her cheeks. This means that Tama can turn any gifter against Kaido at any time she wants, and the army that she has by the end of the raid on Onigashima is actually quite large. This isn't like a mass brainwashing, as the person that eats the dumplings still has all of their memories and personality, they just gain an undying loyalty to Tama. Tama also has to verbally command them to do something, or they can just act like they normally do, but it seems like Tama is pretty aware of what her fruit can do, so she always has tasks for them. Working for Kaido can't be the best, as he already only sees his crew as tools to help him create the biggest war possible, but due to the smile fruits, you could gain massive deformities even if you do become useful to him. Luckily, smile production was completely stopped when Frankie destroyed the last factory during the Dressrosa arc, but tons of people have already been affected, and that's something that could never go away. And with that, we can finally be done talking about the strange Zoan fruits and move on to the paramecias, where I'm sure that we'll have a lot to talk about. The very first paramecia devil fruit that I want to talk about in this video comes from a character first introduced during the Enies lobby arc. In fact, this guy appears towards the end of the arc as a member of the Marines that were chosen to go through with the buster call that was summoned to the island. Very Good is a Marine captain that has a paramecia fruit called the Berry Berry no Mi. The Berry Berry no Mi allows the user to transform their body parts into a multitude of berry-like balls, and the user is referred to as a grape human. This is just as ridiculous as it seems to be a fruit that's very similar to Buggy's that has a little bit better defense. Blunt attacks like Frankie's strong right don't really affect him, but since he's broken up in the way that he is, his attacks don't pack that much of a punch and can be blocked pretty easily. It's clear that our guy Very Good has a strong sense of justice, but pretty much every time he's appeared in the story so far, he's gotten his ass beat. It happens during the Enies lobby arc, as he's only really able to be an annoyance for the Straw Hats and not a true threat. It also happens during one of the cover stories, as he led a group of Marines to CP9's homeland in an attempt to capture the government unit that failed to stop the Straw Hats just a few weeks earlier. This didn't work out for the guy at all, because even though he was pretty easily able to find them, they pretty easily beat the shit out of him and quite literally left him in pieces as they sailed away. That's gotta be really embarrassing, as the powers that give him some extra strength are also an indicator that he's gotten his ass beat. Our guy Very Good hasn't appeared in the post-timeskip material yet, but we do know that he's alive and has a bounty of at least 100 million berries from the Cross Guild since he's a Navy captain. The next two paramecias that we're going to talk about also appear during the buster call of Enies lobby, as the next guy that I want to talk about is a Marine captain named Shu. Our guy Shu always wears a veil over his mouth and has the power of the Sabi Sabi no Mi. The Sabi Sabi no Mi allows the user to cause metallic items to rust and break, and makes the user a rust human. This guy also easily has the shortest history section on the One Piece fandom of anybody that we'll talk about in this video, as the canon section is literally a single sentence long. This is because he doesn't appear for all that long, but he's actually able to make a pretty significant impact because of his devil fruit power. Given the fact that he's a rust man, he goes straight for Zoro as he uses swords, and is able to destroy one of his swords, Yubashiri. Yubashiri was one of the swords that Zoro got during the Logtown arc, and it's honestly fine that he lost it here, because it paved the way for him getting Shusui during Thriller Bark. The fact that somebody with such a busted power in a series where a lot of people use swords is pretty insane, and I can definitely see this guy appearing in the future during a high stakes battle. Now the last person introduced during the end of the Enies lobby arc that I want to talk about is yet another Marine captain that's only appeared in this battle so far. This Marine captain's name is Sharin Guru, and he has a paramecia devil fruit called the Shari Shari no Mi. The Shari Shari no Mi allows the user to rotate their body parts like wheels, and that makes the user a wheel human. I'm telling you, this guy only appears in a few pages, so we don't know all that much about him, but his devil fruit is definitely a strange one. The only strength of the fruit that we've seen so far is that when the user spins their arms at a high speed, they gain some pretty formidable spinning weapons that can be used to attack their opponents. With that being said, the spinning can't be all that powerful, as Frankie was able to block it with his arms and then easily defeat the guy. I'd like to think that the spin could become more powerful if he trained it just like any other devil fruit, but once again, this is the only time that we've ever seen this guy, so I don't know if he's trained since then. These three Marines at the end of the Enies lobby arc were truly the inspiration for me making this video, and I won't take that away from them, even though they'll probably be the characters that I talk about for the shortest amount of time. With that being said, it's time for us to move on to the Enies lobby arc and move on to a character that I definitely forgot existed before doing research for this video. Hell, I don't know if I ever knew that he existed, but I'm happy that I do now because his power is pretty ridiculous and hilarious. The guy that I'm talking about next first appears during the Marineford saga and is the former 6th Division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates. This guy's name is Blamenco, and he has a paramecia devil fruit called the Poke Poke no Mi. The Poke Poke no Mi allows the user to create pockets on their own body, and I'm assuming that the person that ate it is referred to as a pocket human. The main strength of the fruit is that it allows the user to store various things inside of their body, and it seems like the objects stored inside can be much larger than the opening of the pocket. He literally uses this power to pull a Looney Tunes size hammer out from underneath his chin, and as soon as I saw that, I knew that I had to talk about him in this video. The user of this fruit can not only have items bigger than they should be in their pockets, they can also have as many pockets as they want all over themselves, essentially giving themselves infinite storage capacity. This is quite literally the first hint towards a power like Gear 5 existing in the One Piece world, and now that I've discovered it for myself, I won't let anybody tell me otherwise. Unfortunately, just like the others that I talked about during the Enies lobby arc, the Marineford arc is the only time that our guy Blamenco has physically appeared in the story so far. With that being said, he was there when the remnants of the Whitebeard Pirates tried to fight against the Blackbeard Pirates a year into the time skip, but he went into hiding like the rest of them after they lost. I'm not gonna lie, this battle is one of the most interesting that we haven't seen, up there with Aokiji versus Akainu, so I can only hope that we get to see a little bit more of it before the story ends. Anyway, even though Blamenco is currently in hiding, it doesn't take away from the fact that his devil root powers are pretty strange and worth talking about in this video. Next up is a character that you guys might not expect, but I had to put them on here because their ability truly doesn't help all that much when it comes to fighting. Now that doesn't matter all that much since not every character in One Piece is a fighter, but this character is, so them having this devil fruit makes it even stranger than it should be. The guy that we're going to be talking about next is a retainer of the Kozuki family, somebody that was broken apart by law on Punk Hazard, Kinemon. Our guy Kinemon ate a paramecia devil fruit called the Fuku Fuku no Mi. The Fuku Fuku no Mi allows the user to create clothing or other apparel out of leaves or stones by visualizing them, and I'm guessing that the person that eats it is referred to as a garb human. Now this devil fruit admittedly isn't the strangest power in the world, but the fact that it was eaten by Kinemon makes it stranger than it should be. This power would be absolutely perfect for the guy if he was a ninja like Raizo, but he's a samurai, so stealth and espionage aren't really things that he's good at. Now I'm not saying that this fruit doesn't help Kinemon, because it definitely does, it just doesn't help him in battle, the place where he's the most effective. This power also deserves to be in this video because Kinemon uses it for pervy reasons, and there are multiple examples with Nami alone. First, we've got the ninja outfit that he gives her that even shinobi Shinobu says is too revealing, and then we've got the whole thing with the Beast Pirates disguises. Sure, those were the outfits that even the female versions of the Beast Pirates wore, but it honestly feels like Kinemon made them even more revealing somehow. I truly don't know how that would be the case, but this is the same guy that got jealous with Sanji and Brook when Momonosuke took a bath with Nami and Robin. With that being said, his fruit does have practical uses as well, like when he gave all the Straw Hats coats during Punk Hazard, so it isn't like he treats his power like a joke. The only reason that I chose to talk about it in this video is because of the person that ended up with the power, as I truly believe that it would have been used masterfully by a ninja like Raizo. Next up, we've got somebody that was also introduced during the Dressrosa saga, but this guy was introduced in the arc that the saga was named after. This guy was also one of the people that inspired the creation of this video, as his devil fruit has been a meme in the community ever since he was introduced. That's right, next up we're talking about that man Kelly Funk and his Paramecia devil fruit, the Jake Jake no Mi. The Jake Jake no Mi allows the user to become a jacket and be worn by others, making the person that ate it a jacket human. Now you might wonder what the hell that means, and you wouldn't be the first, as this devil fruit appears a lot on those lists that showcase the worst devil fruits in the entire series. While this would be the case for the top tier characters, I truly believe that this would help a lot of people become stronger, and that somebody could legitimately rule the East Blue if they had it, and a strong partner. The jacket fruit is unique because it's one of the only devil fruits to give other people strength, as somebody has to wear the user for the fruit to take effect. This is shown through the Funk brothers, where Kelly was a lot more tactical, but his brother Bobby had the body and strength necessary to get things done. The fruit is super unconventional based on the fruits that we've seen in the story already, but it perfectly fits for Kelly Funk given who him and his brother are. It's only strange because of the fact that it's the complete opposite of every other devil fruit that we've seen in the story, and the power is truly ridiculous. The Funk brothers are also some pretty strange characters because even though they're supposed to be these dangerous assassins, they take nothing but L's throughout their time in the story. They're also some of the few people that don't join the Straw Hat Grand Fleet at the end of the arc, and I don't think I'm the only fan that's actually pretty happy about that. And with that, those are all of the strange devil fruits that I want to talk about in this video. Like I said, what I think is strange and what you think is strange might be a little bit different, so I thought that it would only be right to talk about a couple of honorable mentions. First up, I do have to mention Ivankov and his Paramecia devil fruit that he ate sometime after the God Valley incident, the Horu Horu no Mi. This fruit gives the user the ability to create a variety of special hormones that can alter the recipient's body in any way the user desires, and this makes them a hormone-controlling human. Now these powers are actually pretty useful, as Ivankov can use them to do things like speed up a person's rate of healing, something that he does many times to Luffy during the Impel Down and Marineford arcs. With that being said, he can also do some absolutely diabolical things with them, like the time he forcefully transitioned an Impel Down prisoner from a man to a woman. This was such a shocking scene when I first saw it, and it isn't the only time that we see it either, as Ivankov does it to himself all the time. We've also got someone like Charlotte Daifuku, who ate a Paramecia devil fruit called the Hoya Hoya no Mi. This fruit allows the user to summon a genie from their own body, making them a lamp human. Now I'm not gonna lie, I'd be pissed if my devil fruit power turned me into a lamp human, but at least the genie's design is pretty cool. The only problem with it is that this guy can't grant wishes like a normal genie, as he kinda just acts like a stand from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure that everybody can see. Daifuku uses him for massive swings of his halberd that are actually pretty powerful, and because the genie can also grow in size for bigger attacks when Daifuku needs him to. The only weakness is that Daifuku needs to constantly rub his belly for the genie to be out on the battlefield, and that's gotta be a funny sight for all of his opponents. And for my third and final honorable mention, I want to talk about the Vice Admiral that was one of the 9 that took part in the Egghead Island incident, this guy named Urban. As I've already said, this guy is a Vice Admiral in the Navy, and he ate a Paramecia devil fruit called the Susu no Mi. This fruit allows the user to turn their head into a cannon and makes them a cannon human. This guy has literally only appeared during the Egghead Island arc so far, and he's only used his powers one time, but the concept alone is really funny to me. If my head had the ability to fire cannonballs out of it, I don't know if I would ever use that ability, because I feel like I would just get laughed at. This man also has to carry around a cannon sponge, as it's pretty clear that he has to clean his cannon parts after firing them. We don't know much about this guy, and we may never see him again, although One Piece characters are never forgotten, but but I thought that it'd be fun to end the video off by talking about him. With that being said, I think that truly is all of the strange One Piece devil fruits that I want to talk about in this video. As I've said many times throughout it, my definition of strange might be a little bit different from yours, so definitely put another devil fruit that you thought I should have talked about down in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much for the continued support on the videos. I truly never expected all that much to begin with, but the fact that it's continued is something that makes me really happy. I've had the goal of hitting 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, every year since 2022, and it seems like this channel might finally be the one to do it, so thank you. With that being said, I think it's time to end the video here, so please join me next time for whatever I post next. Please leave a like and maybe subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.